There's a photograph on my desk. I didn't take it. A colleague did, one of those people who carries a camera the way other people carry anxiety. Always ready, always pointed at something the rest of us forgot to notice. He handed it to me afterwards, said nothing, just set it down beside my coffee cup and walked away. In the photograph, a young man is standing at the top of a marble staircase.
He is wearing a suit the color of a winter sky. That particular blue that isn't quite navy, isn't quite gray. His right hand is extended, mid-handshake, with someone whose face has been blurred out by motion. His left hand hangs at his side, fingers loose. His face is arranged into an expression I have spent weeks trying to name. It isn't sadness. It isn't boredom. It isn't the glazed politeness you see on men who've been standing at cocktail parties for 2 hours too long. It is something else. It is the face of a man who has stopped counting minutes entirely because the minutes stopped belonging to him a long time ago. That young man is Prince Edward Alaric Voss, third in line to the Thornfield throne. He was 29 years old in that photograph. He had been performing official duties since he was 11. I know this because I spent 6 weeks inside his schedule, not with him, let me be clear about that. I was never in the room. I'm a researcher, not a courtier. I was given access to the official engagement logs, the household calendars, the briefing notes, the staff circulation memos. I sat in an archive room on the 3rd floor of the Royal Administrative Offices on Keston Street, a room that smelled of printer ink and old carpet, and I read 18 months of his life laid out in 30-minute increments. What I found there is not what I expected. The day I arrived at Keston Street, it was raining in that committed, joyless way that London sometimes does in early March, not storming, not drizzling, just steadily, relentlessly wet, as though the sky had made a decision and was sticking to it. The administrative building is not a place most people know exists. It sits 3 blocks east of the more famous landmarks, wedged between a Prit a Manger and a legal firm whose frosted glass windows reveal absolutely nothing. There is no plaque on the door. There is a small brass panel with a button and a camera. And if you press the button and state your name and your appointment reference number, a voice, always the same voice, a woman named Hilda, who I would come to think of as the keeper of all things, says, "1 moment, please." Then you wait. I waited 7 minutes on that first morning. I counted, not out of impatience, out of habit. I count things. It is a professional reflex and also, I've been told, socially problematic. Hilda let me in eventually. She showed me to the archive room. She gave me a badge, a set of procedural guidelines printed on cream paper, and a look that communicated, without her saying a single word, that if I removed any document from the room she would know, and the consequences would be both swift and permanent. Prince Edward's engagement logs are in the blue binders, she said. Secondary materials, briefing notes, correspondence copies, logistics are in the grey folders behind them. You are not to photograph documents. You are not to quote names of household staff without redaction approval. You are not to, I understand, I said. She looked at me the way people look at someone who has interrupted them to say they understand. When understanding is precisely what she doubted, she left, I sat down. I opened the first blue binder. And the first thing I saw, the very first entry on the very first page, was this 0808 morning brief with private secretary, duration 30 minutes, 0830, departure, preparation, dividable vehicle staging, duration 20 minutes, 0850, transit to Aldersham Children's Medical Centre, duration 25 minutes, 0915, arrival protocol 0 greeting with hospital director. Duration 10 minutes 09 to 25 ward visit. Oncology duration 45 minutes 10:10 ward visit rehabilitation duration 30 minutes 10:40 formal photograph with staff and selected patients duration 15 minutes 10:55 brief statement to press duration 10 minutes will 11:05 departure. Transit to I stopped reading. I sat with that page for a long time. Not because there was anything dramatic on it, because there wasn't, because it was simply a list of where a human being would be, and for how long, and in what capacity, and it continued on the next page, and the page after that, and across 17 more binders stacked on the shelf behind me. I'm not a sentimental person. I want to say that clearly. I have covered government policy, institutional finance, the operational logistics of 3 separate royal households across 2 continents. I do not cry at things. I do not get what my editor calls emotionally compromised by subject matter. But I sat in that archive room on a rainy Tuesday in March, and something about that first page, the simplicity of it, the relentlessness, sat in my chest, like a stone that had been dropped from a great height and hadn't finished falling. 0925, ward visit oncology, duration 45 minutes, 45 minutes. Precisely. Someone had decided that 45 minutes was the correct amount of time to spend in a children's cancer ward. Someone had decided this and written it down, and a prince had honored it. Let me tell you what I eventually learned about how Prince Edward Alaric Voss begins his days. Not from the logs. The logs tell you what happened, not how it felt. I learned this from the briefing notes, which are written by junior staff and carry occasionally the small bruises of actual observation. He wakes at 6, not because 6 is his preference. I found no document in 18 months of records that discusses his preferences in any meaningful way. 6 is simply when the day requires him to begin, and so he begins at 6. The briefing note from his personal equerry, a young man named Marcus, whose notes are the most candid in the archive, describes the morning routine in language that is mostly procedural but occasionally, unexpectedly alive. HRH reviews overnight correspondence summary at 0615, prefers this done before breakfast, not during, has mentioned this preference twice. Still happens during breakfast approximately 3 times per week. I liked Marcus immediately based entirely on that parenthetical. 0645 breakfast working. Documents reviewed at table include schedule brief, background notes for morning engagements, relevant press cuttings. Working breakfast, that phrase appears 214 times across the 18 months of logs. I counted. I told you I count things. The non-working breakfast appears 11 times. These are marked in the logs with a small notation. Personal time, no brief required. 11 times in 18 months. That is slightly less than once every 7 weeks. 11 mornings where the documents stayed off the table. I found myself thinking about those 11 mornings more than anything else in the archive. What did he eat? Did he look out the window? Did he read something that had nothing to do with agricultural policy or Commonwealth infrastructure? Did he sit in the particular silence that belongs only to rooms where no one needs anything from you? I don't know. The logs don't record what happens during personal time, only that it was allocated. This is perhaps the most royal thing I can say about his life. There is a category called personal time, and it must be allocated. And even then, it is surrounded on all sides by the machinery of obligation that gave it permission to exist. The day that broke the photograph open for me, the day I finally understood what I was looking at in my colleague's image, was a Wednesday in November, 8 months into the period I was researching. I'd been in the archive for 4 weeks by then. I had developed a routine of my own. Arrive at 8, sign in with Hilda, make tea in the small kitchen down the hall, return to the archive, open the binders. I had started annotating on a legal pad, not the documents themselves. Hilda had made clear that was non-negotiable, but my own notes. Patterns, things that recurred, things that vanished. On that Wednesday in November, I was reading through a particularly dense week. State visit preparation, 3 separate charity engagements, a parliamentary briefing, 2 evening dinners, a morning ceremony at the cenotaph, and I noticed something, a gap. Not a scheduled gap, not a block marked personal time or travel, or even the occasional merciful rest 20 minutes advised by household physician. An actual unscheduled gap, 14 minutes between the end of a luncheon at the Foreign Diplomatic Society and the beginning of a transit to the afternoon's engagement. 14 minutes, unmarked, unaccounted for. In the margin of the briefing note from that day, Marcus again, reliable Marcus, there was a small penciled annotation. The kind you make and then consider erasing and then don't. It read, HRH stood at the window for most of this. No brief, did not call for anyone, left on time. That was it. That was the entire record of 14 minutes during which a prince was apparently just a person. He stood at a window. I don't know which window. I don't know what he saw. A courtyard, a street, the grey November sky doing its grey November thing. I don't know what he thought about. I don't know if he felt the 14 minutes as relief or as a reprieve so brief it almost made the surrounding schedule worse. I only know he stood there, and then he left on time. And I sat in the archive room with that annotation and felt the stone in my chest drop another 3 feet. Here's the thing about a schedule. Most people treat a schedule as a servant. It works for you. It organizes what you've chosen to do. You ignore it when you feel like it. You shuffle it. You cancel things. You spontaneously decide to take a long lunch or leave early on a Friday or call in sick when you're not actually sick, but the idea of being somewhere you're required to be feels, that morning, like more than you can carry. You do all of this without consequence, or with consequences so minor they constitute their own kind of freedom. A rueful apology, a rescheduled meeting, an eye roll from a colleague. For Prince Edward Alaric Voss, the schedule is not a servant, it is the architecture of his existence. I don't mean this as criticism. I want to be careful here. I am a researcher, not a polemicist, and my job is to describe what I found, not to argue about whether it should be different, but I want to be precise about what I mean, because imprecision would be a betrayal of the thing itself. The schedule is not merely what he does. It is how the institution continues to exist. Every engagement he attends is a thread in a fabric that has been woven carefully over generations, the fabric of legitimacy, of presence, of the visible proof that the institution is functioning and engaged and alive. His attendance at a hospital ward is not just kindness. His attendance at a foreign dignitary's luncheon is not just diplomacy. His presence at a remembrance ceremony is not just grief. Every appearance is a load-bearing wall. And you cannot remove a load-bearing wall on a Friday afternoon because you'd rather be somewhere else. I understood this intellectually before I began the archive. I understood it structurally, procedurally, in the way you understand how a dam holds water. The mechanics are clear enough. What I did not understand, until I spent 6 weeks reading his calendar line by line, was what it costs. Not in labor, though the labor is staggering, in time. His own time, the hours that belong to no schedule, to no institution, to no briefing note. The hours that most people spend badly, wastefully, gloriously, killing time, as we say, with the casualness of people who believe they have an inexhaustible supply. Edward Alaric Voss has approximately 11 breakfast mornings and 14 unaccounted minutes in a single year. That is what it costs. My colleague took the photograph 6 weeks after I began the archive research, at a reception at the Aldermere Gallery, a fundraiser for a cultural preservation initiative. He was there as press. I was there because my editor wanted me to have observational material alongside the archival work, which is editor speak for go watch the man in person and see if it changes anything. It changed everything. I had read his schedule so thoroughly by that point that I could have told you standing in that gallery with a glass of warm white wine I wasn't drinking exactly what he'd done before arriving. I knew his day. I knew the briefing he'd received at 8 that morning. I knew the 3 other engagements he'd completed before this one. I knew that somewhere in his household, Marcus had noted his departure time, his arrival time, and the name of the gallery director he'd been briefed to greet first. He came in through a side entrance, as they do. No fanfare. That's a common misconception, that royals arrive in a blare of announcement. The actual arrival is quiet. A shift in the room's attention, a subtle gravitational rearrangement, and suddenly there he is. He is, I will not describe him in the terms I am not supposed to use. I will say only that the room noticed him the way rooms notice something they weren't expecting to feel. He shook hands. He moved through the space with the particular efficiency of someone who has been moving through spaces like this since he was old enough to understand what a room's expectations were. He asked the right questions. He stood in front of the right paintings. He laughed at the right moments, not performatively, not hollowly, but in the measured way of someone who has learned to let genuine amusement show within a 2-second window before moving on. He was in every observable way exactly what the schedule required him to be, and then something happened that wasn't in any schedule. An old woman, 80, may be more small and precise in the way that very old women who have always been precise become more so, touched his arm. She had been standing near a painting of a coastal cliff, the kind of painting that takes up most of a wall and makes you feel the wind just looking at it. He had stopped beside her, asked the ritual question about the exhibition, and she had answered it. But then she had gone further, said something in a low voice. Something I couldn't hear from where I was standing. He went still, not visibly, not in any way that the room could have read. But I had been reading his schedule for 4 weeks. I had read the shape of his public stillness versus his operational movement, and this was different. This was the stillness of a person receiving something unexpected directly into the chest. She took her hand away. He said something. 2 or 3 words. She nodded once. He moved on to the next guest. My colleague raised his camera. Click. The photograph, the hand extended. The face arranged into that expression I have spent weeks trying to name. I know now what it is. It is the expression of someone who has just been given, for exactly 2 seconds, the unbearable gift of being seen, not as a position, not as an institution, not as a load-bearing wall, as a person. And then the schedule resumed, and he honored it. I finished the archive 6 days ago. I returned the blue binders to their shelf. I thanked Hilda, who received this with the warmth of a woman who has heard thanks from researchers many times and values it not at all. I collected my legal pad, my notes, my 3 weeks of annotations. On my way out, I passed the small kitchen. There was a mug in the drying rack, plain white, no insignia. The kind of mug that belongs to everyone and no one. I thought about Marcus's annotation. HRH stood at the window for most of this. I thought about 11 breakfasts. I thought about the expression in the photograph, the 2 seconds of being a person, the way the schedule resumed exactly on time after. Outside, it was raining again, the same committed, joyless rain. I stood at the corner for a minute, not 14 minutes, just 1, and did nothing. It felt like something. I thought about how extraordinary it is that for most of us, a wasted minute costs nothing. How we spend hours in rooms we didn't choose, talking to people we didn't invite, waiting for things we didn't want, killing time with cheerful violence, and never once think to count what we're burning. And how somewhere in a building I would never see the inside of a man in a winter blue suit was standing in a briefing, or shaking a hand, or nodding at a figure in a document, or looking out a window for 14 minutes, measuring his life, not in hours, but in what he owed the next hour, and the hour after that, and every hour after that, all the way to the end. I have a friend, Della, who takes photographs of strangers, not their faces, their hands. She says hands are the most honest thing about a person because hands don't know they're being watched. They do what they do, fidget, clench, rest open, pick at the edge of a sleeve without any awareness of an audience, and so they tell the truth about what is happening inside the body they belong to. She showed me a set once, a man waiting at a bus stop, hands loose in his lap, palms up, the body posture of surrender, of having been waiting so long that waiting had become a permanent condition. A woman at a job interview, one hand gripping the other at the wrist, hard enough that Della said you could see the pressure in the knuckles. A child reaching for something just out of frame, fingers spread, straining. I thought about Della's photographs when I first arrived in Thornfield for the second phase of my research. I thought about what his hands would look like. Thornfield in October is not a dramatic place. I think people expect it to be the capital city of a constitutional monarchy, the seat of ceremonial power, a city where the old buildings stand close together, like people who have decided not to speak about what they've witnessed. People expect some quality of portent in the air, some weight. What Thornfield actually is, in October, is cold and functional, and slightly smelling of diesel and roasting chestnuts from the vendors near the old Parliament gates. The tourists move in clusters, consulting phones, pointing at buildings with the enthusiasm of people who have flown a long distance to confirm that things exist. The locals move through them with the practiced indifference of people who have long since made peace with sharing their city. I arrived on a Thursday, 2 weeks into October, checked into a narrow hotel on Vesson Street, and spent the first evening doing nothing more complicated than eating soup from a place around the corner and rereading my notes. My notes were, at this point, substantial. The archival phase had given me the structure, the skeleton of 18 months. What I needed now was tissue. Context, the thing that makes a skeleton make sense when you look at it. My contact in Thornfield was a woman named Petra, who had worked in Royal Event Coordination for 11 years and had left 8 months ago to start a consulting firm that did something vaguely described as institutional transition management, which I suspect means helping organizations pretend they are changing while staying exactly the same. She was dry and quick and had a habit of beginning sentences and then stopping, not because she had lost the thought, but because she had decided, somewhere in the middle, that it was probably inadvisable to finish it. We met for coffee at a place she chose, which took 45 minutes to reach by the specific route she required, which I later understood was her way of ensuring we were not seen together by anyone she knew in a professional capacity. She sat across from me, with both hands wrapped around her cup. Della would have photographed them immediately. They were telling the whole story. And she looked at me the way someone looks at you when they are deciding how much of the truth to give. "You want to know what it's like from the inside," she said. "Yes," I said. The calendar. She looked out the window. A tram went past, orange and ordinary. "It's not the number of engagements," she said finally. "Everyone fixates on the number. They count the appearances, the handshakes, the ceremonies. They see the quantity and they think, well, he chose this, didn't he? The institution chose it, yes, but he upholds it. So," she stopped. "So," I said. "It's the transitions," she said. "The bit between things. That's where it lives." Let me tell you what the transitions look like. Petra described them with the patience of someone who has timed them, personally, with a stopwatch. The vehicle arrives, the engagement ends. Not when the conversation naturally ends, because it almost never ends naturally. Because if you let things end naturally at a royal engagement, you will be there until 7 in the evening. And the next engagement will miss its window, and the catering at the dinner after that will be cold. And the hosting ambassador will feel slighted, and that slight will travel through diplomatic channels like a small stone through a pipe, clattering, causing problems no one can quite trace back to the original moment. So the engagement ends when it is scheduled to end, which means someone, usually an equerry, or in the case of larger events, the private secretary, moves into the space with a certain look on their face, a look refined over years into the precise frequency that says it is time without saying anything at all. He will have been in the middle of a conversation. He will always be in the middle of a conversation. That's the part people don't see, Petra said. They see the arrival, they see the formal moments, they see the departure. They don't see him 6 seconds before the departure, mid-sentence with someone who has been waiting months to say the thing they are currently saying, watching the equerry's face appear at the edge of his vision. She paused. "What does he do?" I asked. "He finishes the sentence," she said. "Not his sentence, theirs. He gives them the end of their sentence. And then he says something. I don't know what. I was never that close, and he goes." She looked at her cup. "Every time," she said, "every single time, he gives them the end of their sentence." I wrote that down on my legal pad. Gives them the end of their sentence. I've been thinking about it for 2 weeks and I'm still not sure I've fully understood it. The morning of the second day, I went to the palace. Not inside. I want to be honest about the extent of my access, which was archival and conversational, not residential. I went to the public approach, stood in the square with the tourists, bought a coffee from a cart, and stood with it cooling in my hand and looked at the building. It is a strange kind of building. Not unfamiliar. I had seen photographs, obviously. We all have, but strange in person, in the way that anything you have only seen flat suddenly becomes when you are standing in front of its depth. The photographs don't give you the scale correctly. Or rather, they give you the width, but not the weight. The palace in person has a quality of mass that photographs strip out, a heaviness, not architectural, but something else, the accumulated mass of what the building has absorbed over the centuries. It has been doing what it does. I stood there for about 20 minutes. This is relevant, I promise. While I stood there, something happened that I had not expected to happen. A car came through the gate. Not unusually, cars come through that gate with some regularity. It is a working building, not a monument, but the particular configuration of this car's arrival, the type, the small flags on the hood, caused the crowd around me to do a thing crowds do. It became in a single second a different kind of crowd. The dispersed, distracted, individually pointed tourist crowd fused into something attentive. Phones came up. A woman grabbed her daughter's